Our first duty as a state is to protect our citizens, not merely a responsibility. It is the very foundation of the social contract. When people grant us their consent, they also entrust us with their faith. What faith can exist in a state incapable of deciding who crosses its borders?
The true measure of our civilization is not how fiercely we guard ourselves, but how we treat the most vulnerable. The Geneva Convention we freely signed is no scrap of paper. It is a solemn pledge. When a human being flees war or persecution, the right to asylum is not charity. It is a moral and legal imperative.
Moral imperative? Let's talk reality. Italian public spending on the migrant emergency rose from 840 million euros in 2011 to 4.4 billion euros in 2017. Each forced return costs 5,800 euros. That is money taken from schools, hospitals, pensions. Is it not a government's first moral duty to care for its own citizens, especially the most fragile?
Funny how numbers can tell opposite stories. Immigrant workers in Italy generate $164 billion in value, contributing 8.8% of national GDP. They pay 8 billion euros into INPS, but receive only $3 billion in benefits. They are not a cost. They are an investment. Without them, who will fund pensions in a country that is aging faster than any other?
An investment? Ask the people of Lampedusa if they feel like investors when their tiny island becomes an open-air refugee camp. Ask mayors juggling impossible budgets while services collapse. Theory is always simpler than practice. And then there is security. On 29 October 2020, Brahim Osawi murdered 3 people in Nice. He had entered Europe illegally weeks earlier, via Lampedusa. How many innocent lives equal your moral imperatives?
Using tragedies to stoke fear is the oldest political trick. For every Awasawi, there are thousands of Adnans, Syrian refugees who study and care for our elderly, and Sumeilas, cultural mediators, building bridges between communities. Without the Sikh community, who would milk the cows for Parmigiano Reggiano? Your fear rhetoric ignores a simple truth. Restrictive policies create irregularity and insecurity. The correlation is not between immigration and crime, but between irregularity and crime.
This is not fear rhetoric, it is recognition of concrete risks. The U.S. Annual Threat Assessment clearly states that illegal immigration facilitates the entry of known or suspected terrorists. And even granting the economic contribution of regular immigrants, can we integrate anyone in any number? Is it not true that every society has an absorptive capacity beyond which ghettos, tensions, and cultural fragmentation emerge?
I'm surprised by this static view of society. Cultures have always been fluid. Italy itself was shaped by Phoenicians, Greeks, Arabs, Normans. Wasn't ancient Rome multi-ethnic? The national identity you defend is itself the product of encounters, contaminations, migrations. How can you freeze what has always been in motion?
It is not about freezing. It is about governing. No one denies social evolution, but there is a profound difference between gradual change that allows integration and a demographic shock that creates fractures. And then there is respect for legality. How can we teach the value of rules if the very first act on our soil is to break them? A border is not just a line on a map. It is the assertion that order exists, that the state has the right to decide whom and how to welcome.
And who sets these rules? The same rich nations that for centuries exploited the resources of the countries migrants now flee? The same powers that sell arms, fuel conflicts, and then act shocked when people run from war. Your order is built on global injustice. When we speak of invasion, we forget that 84% of refugees are hosted in developing countries, not in Europe. Is this not supreme hypocrisy?
Hypocrisy is hiding behind the rhetoric of welcome without facing its real consequences. It is not university professors or wealthy politicians who pay the price of uncontrolled immigration. It is the working class, seeing wages erode, competing for public housing and already insufficient social services. That is the central issue. Resources are finite. Every euro spent on reception is a euro not spent on struggling families. Is this true solidarity?
Resources are finite, but their distribution is a political choice. When we bail out a bank, we spend billions without blinking. When we save lives, we suddenly become strict accountants. And what price are we talking about? The price paid by migrants on the Balkan route, illegally pushed back, beaten by border police, denied the right to claim asylum? Or the price paid by those who die in the Mediterranean for lack of safe legal routes? How many deaths at sea are acceptable before we admit that yours is a policy of death?
It is not a policy of death. It is a policy of responsibility. Who urges desperate people to take to the sea on rickety boats? The traffickers. And who fuels the traffickers' billion-euro business? Those who promise indiscriminate welcome, creating false hopes. True compassion is not opening the doors to all, but building sustainable solutions, helping countries of origin develop, creating protection zones near crisis areas, selecting those who genuinely qualify for asylum through rigorous procedures. That is real humanity, not the superficial emotion that ends up harming everyone.
Do not confuse propaganda with reality. No one proposes indiscriminate welcome. We simply demand respect for international law and fair, efficient asylum procedures. And the idea of helping them at home is serious only if accompanied by concrete policies, debt cancellation, fair trade, ending support for corrupt regimes. But it is easier to build walls than to address the real causes of migration. Yours is not a policy of responsibility. It is a policy of disresponsibility.
The heart of the matter is this. Every nation has the right and duty to protect its identity, its security, its social cohesion. This is not selfishness. It is the very condition for a state to prosper and, yes, to be generous outwardly. A house with doors forever flung open is not welcoming. It is a house that has ceased to be one. Borders are not just barriers. They are the assertion that order exists, that the state has the right to decide whom and how to welcome.
And I tell you that true security is not built with walls, but with justice. In an interconnected world, no nation is an island. Climate crises, pandemics, wars, everything crosses borders, whether we like it or not. The real choice is not between protecting us or protecting them, but understanding that we are all in the same boat. When we treat human beings as numbers to be rejected, we do not just lose them, we lose ourselves, our values, our humanity. Is this the security we want? An empty fortress where fear reigns and compassion dies? Or do we want an open, dynamic society capable of facing the future with courage and humanity?